So see, what is happening is two things are at play. On one hand, you have BRI of China. On the other hand, we could have had SAARC on the left-hand side of India and BIMSTEC on the right-hand side. So therefore, you can think of it like a competition, logistic competition between these two grand projects also. So there, I think that BIMSTEC, it plays a really important role.
There is an understanding with UNDOC. There is an understanding with IORA, which has happened at this point in time. Now, what does that indicate? That indicates that now BIMSTEC as a legal personality is coming into fruition, right? So we see that there is 20 years of history behind BIMSTEC. But in terms of institutionalization, we are only getting started. So we should go ahead and do it. We should create these institutional strengths so that we are offering more to the BIMSTEC as BIMSTEC is offering us right now.
From security perspective, I would say in IOR, BIMSTEC is going to be the elephant in the room, and definitely that is going to create a very strong impetus. So I would not say it is going to substitute SAARC. I would also not say that it is an alternative to SAARC, but I would say it's right now the most prudent tool which India can take forward for manifestation of its foreign policy. But definitely all the three organizations are having their own beauty.
Hello and welcome to Perspective. Today we are here to discuss a very important issue concerning India's neighborhood, which is recent BIMSTEC Summit. So now SAARC is becoming increasingly dysfunctional. ASEAN is more looking towards the east, and China is increasing its footprint in this particular region. The relevance of BIMSTEC is now being increased. So can BIMSTEC will actually fill this particular vacuum? So to discuss this particular topic, I am joined by the faculty members of Vision IAS. Hello everyone.
Hello.
So Shruti Ma'am, let's start with you. So as we have discussed that now SAARC is roughly becoming dysfunctional these particular days because we do not have any kind of meeting from 2014 onwards. So what do you think, this is the reason for BIMSTEC becoming increasingly important, and will BIMSTEC be able to fill this particular vacuum?
So sir, this is like two questions are being put up. The first question of course is that what is the reason all of a sudden BIMSTEC, all of us are talking about it? So the reason is that it's not that BIMSTEC is quite an accidental move which India had made or the other 6 countries have made. So the genesis of BIMSTEC lies in 1997. And since 1997, it has been growing up, no doubt. It is an inter-regional forum. It is kind of diplomatic linkage between South Asia and Southeast Asia. But yes, definitely to a large extent, we can say that with dysfunctionality of SAARC, especially since 2016, we can say, because no more SAARC summit has happened, no doubt India had put a huge amount of momentum force to BIMSTEC. But as I said, it's not accidental because BIMSTEC since its inception had great potentiality, not only for India, for the other 6 countries also. But of course, I shall be focusing more on BIMSTEC and its importance for India. So if we figure out why BIMSTEC was and is still very important for India is, number one, politically. So what is the political significance if we talk about? Politically, as I said, BIMSTEC is a diplomatic platform of linkaging South Asia and Southeast Asia. If I take forward the economic significance, so it is taking forward almost 22%, roughly 22% of world population. And if you take forward the economic outcome or the economic contribution, it's contributing almost $3.8 trillion in terms of GDP. So that is an immense contribution of BIMSTEC. The reason is also because there is a huge demography here in this region of South Asia and Southeast Asia. So it has coming up as a very fine, good, viable market, not only regionally, but also internationally for other international actors. Also, if we figure out the geographical location where BIMSTEC as a region lies, so it is lying very close to Strait of Malacca. So definitely economically, again, it's a very nice perspective for trade connectivity. 1/4 of the international trade actually passes through this international saline of communication. So that again makes BIMSTEC economically very significant. Socially, if I talk, then no doubt it's a very preferred platform for P2P contact, wherein India can come forward and display its soft diplomacy. And especially with the rise of China, as you mentioned, now this is one USP which India's foreign policy have with us, that we can play beautifully in terms of soft policy. And last but not the least, if I take forward the strategic significance, that is more important. So BIMSTEC, no doubt, is strategically important, A, because it's a perfect manifestation of India's neighbourhood first policy and Act East policy. Second, if I say, as I have mentioned, sea lanes of communication is passing out. So this is one of the reasons why China is also very interested in this IOR. So definitely this is one very important, you can say, a regional counter to China's OBOR initiative as well. Strategically, again, if I say, then BIMSTEC also appears to be a very fine way to materialize India's Sagarmala initiative. That is the port-led domestic policy of India. So, and last but not the least, connectivity initiative. We take forward any of the BIMSTEC countries, be it Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, we are taking forward so many brilliant connectivity initiatives, be it BBIN, Kaladan Multimodal Project, IMT project. So the importance is not only purely about connectivity, importance is also, and especially when it has become so important, when Bangladesh interim, the caretaker government goes there in China and says that we should not forget that our northeast is, landlocked. So now at that point, all these initiatives appears to be a very nice alternative in order to reduce our over-dependence on Siliguri corridor. So I feel if we look into from all these perspectives, I feel it was not a very accidental move which India made. It was always there in India's foreign policy focus. Thus, just that with dysfunctionality of SAARC, now India is giving a great push to BIMSTEC.
So what you are trying to say here, that it's not just because that SAARC is dysfunctional, the BIMSTEC is getting prominence. It's more than that, because strategically, politically, economically,
Yeah,
it is
has
very, very
many
important.
and number of advantages.
Exactly. So Himanshu Sir, let's take the discussion forward and let's discuss about this particular recent summit of BIMSTEC, which was the 6th BIMSTEC summit. In this particular summit, it was also very important because Prime Minister of India has also taken participation in this, and he was also very enthusiastic about it. And he also laid down the 21-point program. So can you briefly highlight what are the important key focus of this particular program and how they are important for India?
Well, the primary focus of that action plan of India is, of course, the maritime transport connectivity that we are focusing upon, right? Whereby we have, as part of the agreement signed in 2025 summit, we have given, basically decided to give national status to the foreign crew, to the foreign vessels. That is, will not be, any of the BIMSTEC members will not be giving any less favorable treatment to the vessels of the other partner countries. So, plus we have also decided that there is going to be what you call as mutual recognition to each other's certificates, like safety certificates or crew, क्रू का भी एक सर्टिफिकेट होता है कि उनका कितना वो ट्रेंड है, ठीक है, वो सब चीज़ें, so that the ease of doing business is more there and faster trade happens at our ports. So that is very, very important. Apart from that, there is focus on energy security. So there is energy grid. Like we know that Thailand is solar power surplus, Bhutan is hydropower surplus, right? Whereas India, Bangladesh, right? These are certain countries which are power deficient, right? So therefore, with that focus on energy security, an energy grid would be, created as part of that action plan, which was the focus since 2021, right? So these are the key points which are there. Apart from that, we have also decided to enter into MOUs with the UNODC to handle the issue of drug trafficking, because we know that one of the sector among the 7 sectors is security. So as part of that, and also there is a MOU for joint patrolling and better counter surveillance with the IOR, Indian Ocean region rim countries. So that's the primary focus. Skill development and other aspects are also present. I would like to add that from my from one perspective, the importance of BIMSTEC is that the connectivity of India, if we see, so basically when it comes to Arabian Sea and Central Asia, SAARC comes into mind, and when it comes to the Bay of Bengal and the Southeast Asia, it's the Bay of Bengal which comes to mind, and combining Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, the whole IOR region comes into mind. Right now, because of the Pakistan-India tensions, the SAARC thing, it is not working out. So therefore, there we are actually sidestepping Pakistan by sidestepping SAARC. For example, through IMEC corridor, through Chabahar, etc. We are trying to reach Central Asia through that. And with respect to the East, we are going for this BIMSTEC, which is also going to be a counter to BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. So see, what is happening is two things are at play. On one hand, you have BRI of China, and on the other hand, we could have had SAARC on the left-hand side of India and BIMSTEC on the right-hand side. But because SAARC is dysfunctional, so therefore IMEC and other things we are working out. So therefore, you can think of it like a competition, logistic competition between these two grand projects also. So there, I think that BIMSTEC, it plays a really important role.
So that's what you have highlighted, that why Prime Minister is also more enthusiastic in order to revive BIMSTEC, because it plays a very important role in connecting the South Asia specifically to the Southeast Asia and filling the gap that is available in that particular region. Anjani Sir, do you want to highlight some initiative of this particular summit?
So, Vishal, if you see throughout the history of BIMSTEC, there are particular areas which clearly are the potentiality. If you read the charter of the BIMSTEC, it says that geographical contiguity, abundance of natural and human resources, historical linkages, they all offer potential for cooperation in identified areas. So in this summit, what we see is, there is a commitment to move towards the free trade agreement, which is not a new thing. Second, we see that the Vision 2030 is a comprehensive plan which incorporates the potential mentioned in the charter. So one, there is a focus on connectivity, and in that maritime domain has been highlighted. But apart from that, the idea is that we should broaden this initiative. So there is also a focus on how do we make it people-centric. So cooperation in music, cooperation in sports, this is also a highlight of this particular summit. Now, apart from that, few nitty-gritties that would give us hope is that the rules of procedures have been finalized in this summit. Previously, in the 22nd summit, the charter itself was adopted, and that gave legal character to BIMSTEC. Apart from this, one should also note that in this particular summit, the report of the eminent persons group for the future has also been adopted. Now, that particular report itself talks about the potential of cooperation within BIMSTEC. So promoting people-to-people cooperation, promoting connectivity, and more importantly, identifying the maritime significance of this region is a highlight, right? So BIMSTEC offers you two opportunities at the same time. One is to develop mountain economy, and another is to develop blue economy, right? Apart from that, as Himanshu Sir has also mentioned, there is an understanding with UNDOC. There is an understanding with IORA, which has happened at this point in time. Now, what does that indicate? That indicates that now BIMSTEC as a legal personality is coming into fruition, right? So we see that there is 20 years of history behind BIMSTEC. But in terms of institutionalization, we are only getting started.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is only in 2014 that the permanent secretariat was set up, and it is only in 2022, after a gap of 8 years, that the charter is adopted. So finally now, like literally for 25 years, BIMSTEC was not a formal organization. It is now in 2022 that it became a formal organization. So actually the real boost to BIMSTEC, it has actually come now. So I totally agree with Sir.
Sir, I would like to add one more. If we look into the theme basically says prosperous, open and resilience region.
Right.
And the region is what? Region is IOR. So again, BIMSTEC, no doubt, like Sir also said, it has potentialities. So as far as IOR is concerned, since IOR is so critical for us, so if you have ASEAN on one hand, like an IOR and n number of other regional organizations, EPIC and all, somewhere in the Indo-Pacific region, whenever there would be some kind of discourse on security architecture in IOR, BIMSTEC definitely is going to play a great important role.
And there is a precedent for that, Sir. In 2018, there was one military exercise which took place.
MILEX 18
MILEX
was
2018.
hosted by India.
So after that, I don't think they have moved ahead, and some countries only sent observers, like Nepal only sent observer, Thailand also only sent observer. But yes, we can build upon that.
Yeah, so
in future.
IOR security, BIMSTEC is going to be the key.
And specifically when the Indian Ocean region is very important from the security perspective, you have highlighted about the initiatives like Sagar or the Mahasagar initiative that the Prime Minister is recently talking about. apart from that, this internationalization of rupee, that project that India is seeking for, that to promote its rupee-based trade.
And
or
India has
local-
offered the linkage with its own UPI with the payment systems in these countries. So some sort of financial connectivity, as we can call it, that is also in the offering.
Right, that we are doing with the recent summits with the EU also, that we are offering
Right,
this particular thing. So, Anjani sir, if we can discuss about now that though there are a lot of potential that the BIMSTEC actually offers, but since ma'am has highlighted that 1997 was the year when the BIMSTEC was started, and we have discussed that roughly for many years after the formation, this remained less institutionalized, and recently the charter was adopted. So what do you think, like what should be the India's diplomatic and the strategic move in order to steer this particular initiative? Because the context for that is like Myanmar, there is a political turmoil that is already going on. Bangladesh, where there was a change of government. So how do you think like India will be able to steer this particular group?
So first of all, India is uniquely positioned to lead BIMSTEC. There is no doubt about it. Largest country within the BIMSTEC, largest economy within the BIMSTEC. You take geography, demography, economy, all these aspects. India is the largest country. So it's the natural leader. But then leadership in regional aspects has another point also, which is it has to be accepted by your neighbors. So how do we take along our neighbors which have some sort of suspicion regarding the intent of any large neighbor, right? It's natural that if you are a large country, your neighbors may not look at you favorably all the time. And when you have 7 neighbors, it may so also happen that at the same time you may not have good relations with all of them. So currently we certainly have difficulties in relations with Bangladesh. What's the way to go about it? The way to go about it, one is of course bilaterally build the bridges. Now building bridges is not a task of one day. Certain steps have been visible in recent times. For example, Bangladesh has appointed a high commission, and India's Prime Minister met the leader of Bangladesh, Dr. Muhammad Yunus. And these steps bilaterally would shape the relationship in the new context. But we cannot say when this particular phase would end. So in the interim, what is the option? You engage through any available means. So this year, the chair of BIMSTEC rotates to Bangladesh. And this is the year, in 2025, India would be chairing the IORA. So BIMSTEC, Indian Ocean Rim Association, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium are all platforms where India is a principal member, but our neighbors like Bangladesh or Myanmar or Thailand are also part of it. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We have to figure out the adequate pieces there. Then you have to understand that before the partition of the subcontinent or before India's independence, British India had significant influence over Bay of Bengal. And in a sense, the power projection of India at that point in time went to the Pacific, through the Malacca, through Singapore. These were all governed under the British rule. Now that is the past that now India can also build on. But here I would like to point out what former Foreign Secretary Madam Nirupama Rao has written about recently, that India seems to be a liminal power, meaning India is not a traditional power, traditional great power, so not in terms of coercive abilities, but India is not an inconsequential country also. So we would have to see that insofar as possible, we repair our bilateral relations, but as far as possible, we also take a broader view of our own capabilities and take unilateral steps also if possible. And what could be those unilateral steps? So one, as Prime Minister in his 21 plan has also identified that, for example, Bodhi would promote people-to-people contacts in terms of human resource training, capacity building. Apart from that, India hosts 2 regional centers of BIMSTEC, one on weather and climate, that is in Noida, and another on BIMSTEC Center on Energy, which is in Bangalore. So we are proposing that we would establish 3 more regional centers. One in the area of Center of Excellence on disaster management, another in areas like agriculture. So we should go ahead and do it. We should create these institutional strengths so that we are offering more to the BIMSTEC as BIMSTEC is offering us right now, right? So if we take the leadership mantle, what would happen is the leadership would be accepted by others sooner or later. One country today may not accept it, but if we continue doing it, the acceptance of India's leadership would also become natural. Apart from the fact, we should also understand that our geostrategy, if we are talking about Indo-Pacific, our primary power projection center is Indian Ocean region. And in the Indian Ocean region, the Bay of Bengal is the one which is crucial in connecting with the Pacific. So development of Andaman and Nicobar, relations with Indonesia, and apart from that, the existing initiatives that we already have, as ma'am has also mentioned, IMT, India, Myanmar, Thailand Highway. So we should take a collective view of all of them, and we should not see them as individual projects, but we should see them as an endeavor which is connected end to end, right? So in a sense, we have to build a larger picture of the world for India. Rather than only looking at BIMSTEC, we should look at BIMSTEC as part of Bay of Bengal as part of the Indian Ocean region, and Indian Ocean region a quintessential part of the Indo-Pacific.
Exactly. So what you are highlighting is basically that the entire regional aspect that also have to be taken into consideration, because a lot of minor aspects that are building the larger geographical setup.
And it's all about India's weight. We should remember that India is the larger country.
Exactly.
So we can always spend more, we can always show a large heart, and we can always wait for the right time to correct any slights which might have been given to us by any country. We have enough.
But sir, there are no free lunches, okay? So I believe that if we are showing large heart, then there should be reciprocity also. And if India needs BIMSTEC, right? Then India is the largest economy among the BIMSTEC. So therefore, other members, they need BIMSTEC even more. So therefore, there has to be quid pro quo, right? And there has to be focus on counter-terrorism, transnational crime, which are agendas of BIMSTEC, and the other partners they need to deliver. I feel that we should not, simply just be large-hearted, right? There has to be quid pro quo, I don't think that we have to repair the relationship. I think it is upon Bangladesh to repair relationship with us. We have never acted as a big brother to Bangladesh.
I am in agreement with you. That's why the Prime Minister has done the right thing by choosing the bilateral meeting on the sidelines of BIMSTEC to give the message of avoiding rhetoric and safeguarding the rights of minorities. Now, the messaging has to be at the right platform. BIMSTEC is for larger purposes. So when I'm saying India can show large heartedness, it is because it is in our favor. We are creating the narrative which later on
I would like to
would
add
be
on
beneficial.
what Sir was also saying, no?
I mean to say that all measures, they should be deployed,
I
overt
personally
and
feel
covert. And
that large heart definitely we should show. I would like to differ from Sir. Reason because right now we can't afford that thing. Right now, the situation, we have a very troubled neighborhood. So you have Maldives, you have Nepal, you have Sri Lanka, and you have Bangladesh. And if you look into all prospect, you will figure out a very strong orientation towards China. At this moment, if we are not doing this, China definitely is going to take a very fine sweep within it. So this is a time when we need to garner ourselves little bit from our side, even if it is happening. It will definitely have a longer effect if we see foreign policy. So I personally feel in this area, Gujarat doctrine, that is unilateral, as in without expecting anything, that is called unilateral accommodation, which we say is in foreign policy. So unilateral accommodation without reciprocity and no interference in internal matter. I believe this will make BIMSTEC go a bit far, because right now we can't afford it. Else that was a good strategy, that everyone wants something in exchange.
ma'am, all big powers all around the world, right, they guard their national interests through all measures. Obviously, we are not saying that we should be, I am not saying that we should be interfering in anyone's this thing, but I have a disagreement with respect to Gujarat doctrine that we, showing big heart, etc., etc. The whole point is that right now the region is very troubled. We need to adopt real political measures, in the sense that Arakan army is threatening the Sitwe port. So therefore, how do we deal with the junta government as well as the Arakan army, right? Simultaneously, Bangladesh, right? So Chittagong port is very, very important to this whole BIMSTEC, and Bangladesh is in turmoil. We do not know till what time Mr. Yunus will be in power, whether he'll be hosting the next session or not. We don't know, because the region is highly in turmoil. So I think we need to slightly be hawkish also, in my perspective.
The only disagreement is when it comes to BIMSTEC, we need to show that large heart. When we are dealing with individual neighbors, we should take a stand based on a particular issue. So if it is a matter of our territorial integrity, sovereignty or security, there is no
We should be on guard.
scope for
So
compromise.
that's the reason I said no, it's a manifestation of both the foreign policies. Neighborhood is also there, so Act East is also there, and Gujarat Doctrine also plays. So
Ma'am, Northeast is very important, right? And it is in turmoil internally, right? So therefore, that was one of the things which was in my mind when I was talking about these things, right? And second aspect is that Bangladesh chief advisor, right, went to China and kind of like in a very subtle manner tried to negatively talked about the landlocked nature of the Northeast, right? So therefore, I feel that purely the Gujarat doctrine ethos slightly has to be modified in
yes,
context
sir, a
of
combo could be a good move, I believe, a diplomatic combination of all
Right.
these. No?
So basically, what we are like trying to highlight over here that there should be a kind of balance, because there is on one side there is a Gujarat doctrine, on the other side we also have to talk about the real politic, which was like even highlighted by Kautilya in the Mandal Siddhanta.
Vishal, we followed Gujarat doctrine all throughout the years with respect to SAARC. Where is SAARC?
Right.
So
right.
see, I would
And
like
the
to
issue is,
simplify this.
and the issue is that China would like to create trouble in Myanmar for BIMSTEC. Pakistan has sent ISI team to Bangladesh, right? So therefore, without and these are rim countries, okay? So without Bangladesh, without Myanmar properly on our side, so therefore, I think just by being well, we have to be real politic and strategic, obviously be magnanimous, but at the same time, don't be just a cute dove.
That's why the balance.
No, sir.
See,
Sir, post
I
Uri
love
attack.
this saying that all governments are too polite to tell the truth. So what we speak in a group context is always different from what we speak in a bilateral context. So you would see if we have concerns regarding Northeast and what is happening in Myanmar, so the Home Ministry has taken the step of suspending the FMR, right? But when Myanmar faced earthquake, we showing large-heartedness by providing unilateral help is the kind of strategy that we require.
Definitely.
Because that is where the opportunity to build for the future, right? Any particular episode is going to pass.
Yeah, so that's Modi doctrine, not Gujarat doctrine.
No, sir. So what I feel is, sir, we have cards in our hand. India has shown its being a hard power after 2016 Uri attack. We actually dismantled what Gulnan Vidal talked about, us being a soft power. We have showcased the world. Whenever required, we can use that hard power. After Pulwama, again, we have done. We were very clearly said terror and talk will not go together. That's the reason SAARC is dysfunctional. My point is, wherever required, we can make this idea. But what I feel right now is when you have a very strong, even anti-Indian narrative, which China anytime can use, and it has been using it against us. Nepal mein right now it's a coalition government, but the UML party chief, Prime Minister Oli is there, and we have seen what Oli had done. Indo-Nepal relation went for an absolute dip there. JVP party in Sri Lanka, we never had a good record with that. Thanks, Abhi Sri Lanka is accepting that we are in a better position. That's the reason. Else we don't have a good history with JVP party as well. Maldives anyhow is out. That's the reason I'm saying we can pick and choose the card, whatever we feel. So options are already there, no? Neighborhood first policy,
And that is
policy.
where you will also see, ma'am, that before the BIMSTEC summit, the Prime Minister does what? He goes to Sri Lanka and Thailand. So today we may not be getting along with Bangladesh, but BIMSTEC has so many other members. So to build bridges or deal with Bangladesh in any other way is a bilateral matter. BIMSTEC plays a larger purpose in India's larger geostrategy. Because India must not forget its own weight, its own importance, its own significance.
So let's take the discussion of our, because we have talked a lot about like what should be the India's stand as far as the bilateral and on the other side like the regional context is concerned. So ma'am, we are already discussing about the ASEAN region, which are specific countries of the Southeast Asia, which are of very importance. Like we can say from the perspective of Kautilya's Mandal Siddhanta, they are the, like after the neighborhood, they are the other countries which are very, very important. Now, on the other side, we are also talking about the SAARC, which is comparatively dysfunctional now. So, we know that BIMSTEC is positioned in certain way that is having some advantage over both the other organizations. So, can you briefly provide us the comparative picture of like how BIMSTEC is having the unique aspect as far as compared from the SAARC as well as from on the other side it is from ASEAN?
So, sir, if you look into this region, this is IOR, and from this position of Strait of Malacca, then that starts the Indo-Pacific. So, definitely ASEAN somewhere falls there. And if I take forward the security architecture of IOR in Indo-Pacific, now we have three organizations like we are talking, ASEAN, SAARC and BIMSTEC. So now how we can juxtapose, sir, if I am not wrong, in 2022 also a question in GS came up that with the giving impetus of India to BIMSTEC, is SAARC getting dysfunctional or not? So this is a very potent question. My point is how we can consider all these three. From security perspective, I would say in IOR, BIMSTEC is going to be the elephant in the room, and definitely that is going to create a very strong impetus. As far as Indo-Pacific is concerned, ASEAN is going to be the elephant in the room because it is going to include those countries, almost 11 in nature, which are mostly swing states. So they have not been taking sides. So you have US, Australia, Japan, India on one hand, China, North Korea on other hand. ASEAN ka ye dilemma hai that they are good with all those, both the two fronts. So this is an idea. If I take forward SAARC, and now only SAARC and BIMSTEC if I say. So all these three are regional organizations, but SAARC and ASEAN are core regional organization. One core regional organization of South Asia, one core regional organization of Southeast Asia. If I talk about BIMSTEC, BIMSTEC is an inter-regional organization, first of all. So there can't be a parallel directly drawn between these three. One, if I take forward similarities, so there is a membership overlapping here, there is a regional overlapping, there is also an idea of South-South collaboration. India being a leader in both the two forums. These are few of the similarity, but again I would say there are n number of dissimilarities. One, the agenda itself is very different. So now SAARC is an overwhelming idea, taking forward cooperation in all aspects, economic, cultural, social, political. BIMSTEC, as the name suggests, it's only of economic and technological cooperation. So it's more narrow as far as its operationality is concerned. Second, as far as the strategic importance is concerned, as I said, it's an inter-regional organization having only 7 members, no doubt, just 2 members from Southeast Asia. So in that case also SAARC would be a more overwhelming idea. Also, if I take forward BIMSTEC charter, BIMSTEC में clearly लिखा है that BIMSTEC itself never wants to supersede any existing regional forums. So BIMSTEC in itself as an international personality never intends to substitute anyone. So if I need to summarize, I would say post 2016, giving big push to BIMSTEC, no doubt, BIMSTEC has added a new chapter to the already existing regional forums in this particular area. So I would not say it is going to substitute SAARC. I would also not say that it is an alternative to SAARC, but I would say it's right now the most prudent tool which India can take forward for manifestation of its foreign policy. But definitely all the three organizations are having their own beauty. So as international personality, all exist. So you can't say one can substitute another.
So more than an alternative, it is basically an essential aspect.
It's just a new chapter added, I believe, in the regional organization.
Right, to plug the gap that is already persisting. Now, as we were discussing already about this particular recent summit, so apart from this technological and economic cooperation that we were discussing and specifically saying in a lot of things, maybe the HADR or maybe other aspects, there are certain things that were shown by the Prime Minister regarding the soft power diplomacy also. Whether it is about the health, whether it is about education, whether it is about the skill development. So one such initiative that was highlighted, which is the Bodhi initiative. So Himanshu Sir, if we can discuss briefly about like how India is changing its narrative for going for certain kind of like soft power diplomacy again as far as the BIMSTEC is concerned.
Well, as part of BIMSTEC, as you mentioned, the Bodhi initiative is there with respect to youth skilling. Also in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, recently a conference was held whereby 70 members were sent by the member countries. That was youth to youth interaction, right? People to people contact is another aspect which is there, right? So these are the elements which are the focus. Apart from that, what else can be added with respect to this? I feel that tourism is also one of the element which I read it is part of the action plan on one of the overall view. Sustainable development and harnessing of the maritime resources, right? So therefore that element is there which can provide energy security to the whole region, right? So basically it is about building confidence through people to people contact and through these cultural and soft power things like sir mentioned UPI also, right? So therefore it's not just like people to people, but actually enablement with the help of skill development, financial enablement with respect to UPI, energy grid ke through energy security of the region, sustainable use of the maritime resources, cold chain infrastructure is also an aspect with respect to improving the coastal economies. So I feel all of these things, come if they come together. So therefore, I think focus is that how can we have slightly more trust among the in the people also and among the leaders also.
Right.
And that IMT corridor is like 70% complete. So good economics is good politics. So it is said that maybe by 2027 it will be complete. So if that happens, then maybe better economy will also improve the political situation in Myanmar and other areas also. So let's see, all of these things, they will work hand in hand. So that is what I would like to say.
And as far as BIMSTEC is concerned, sir, there is diaspora is also a very important thing because we have the cultural roots as far as
Definitely,
the South
even pre 1947, be it Azad Hind Fauj or be it anything. So yeah, definitely that is also.
So that particular thing can also be harnessed. So now Anjani sir, as we have discussed about different angle, be it the technical cooperation, be it economic, be it the cultural cooperation or the soft power diplomacy. Like from here, sitting in 2025, talking about the Bangkok vision of 2030, like how do you see the progress of BIMSTEC from here onwards? Because one thing which was highlighted is the yearly summit, but which was not there till now. So we have from 1997 only 6th summit. So how do you think, like from here, how the BIMSTEC should be progressing forward in order to make it a very important regional organization?
I previously also mentioned that even the BIMSTEC charter talks about its potential. Now the potential of BIMSTEC is nothing that somebody is in doubt about. What is of doubt is how fast can we translate this potential into actuality, and that is where BIMSTEC has lagged behind. So one reason was that BIMSTEC itself lacked institutional mechanism. So with the establishment of the secretariat in Dhaka, with the adoption of the charter, with now the adoption of the rules of procedure, we are seeing that BIMSTEC is filling that institutional gap. And there cannot be any slack there. We need to build institutions for implementation. Visions of organizations like Vision 2030 of BIMSTEC is welcome. It shows ambition. But ambition, if it is not translated into actuality, ultimately leads to disappointment. So before the disappointment sets in, what we need to do is we need to identify low-hanging fruits where we can make quickest progress. And quickest progress cannot be, unfortunately, in areas, hardcore areas of security. So we had hosted a MILEX 18 summit. But as Sir has also mentioned earlier, there Thailand and Nepal had certain reservations. So they didn't participate. So is that the only option? No. That's where we understand in India that we should go ahead with whatever works. So what is working in this case? So as I earlier mentioned, that we have Weather and Climate Regional Center, we have Energy Center. The next center that we are proposing is on disaster management. It fits in with India's role. Now remember, BIMSTEC has 7 sectors of cooperation identified, and India chairs the security sector. And what are the subsectors within security? One is transnational crime, counter-terrorism, but other 2 are energy security and disaster management. So energy security and disaster management are 2 areas which offer quickest chance for progress. So case in point being, currently India was one of the first, quickest to dispatch aid to Myanmar when the earthquake happened. Now, this tells us that certain kinds of intervention are easier. So we should identify these and continue doing those. One thing that India has consistently focused on is the maritime significance of this region. 25% of global trade passes through this region. Now, one aspect of this is, can we have an FTA with each other? So that has proven to be difficult. In 2004, we started with the idea of negotiating an FTA, and it's still a pointing agenda.
We 2027 on a deadline choose kiya na shayad?
Yes. So we should now put a date to this negotiation, and we should have a timeline, and within those timelines, we should achieve these things. For example, the FTA negotiation. In the interim, what can we do? So in 2019, India had hosted a port conclave summit. So there are areas in the maritime domain where cooperation is easier, right? So we can work on the idea that India can develop shipbuilding capabilities. It becomes a shipbuilding center in this region. India and Bangladesh can be ship recycling centers in this particular region. But what we need the most in this context is also an institution which focuses on this potential.
सर एक दो और लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स हैं अगर इफ यू अलाउ मी टू ऐड.
Please.
एक तो सर ये है कि ट्रांसशिपमेंट हब्स, एक तो अंडमान एंड निकोबार में बनना है, अंडमान से बनना है ट्रांसशिपमेंट हब. और क्या कहते हैं, दूसरा एक और चीज़ है कि बेसिकली टू अकोमोडेट लार्जर वेसल्स, बेसिकली dredging of the ports is to happen. So these are also like non-controversial areas where if we put in efforts तो सही रहेगा. And third is कि जो छोटे हमारे ports हैं ना, छोटे वाले जैसे विशाखापट्टनम एंड वाले, तो उनकी भी connectivity का एक element है with respect in BIMSTEC. So I think these are also like small areas. I thought to
Yes,
my mind.
definitely. So maritime domain offers the significant potential for quick cooperation. So as I was mentioning, my point was that all these ideas, how can we go about them? If we can develop a nodal point, and for this India has proposed establishing a center for excellence for maritime cooperation, right? So we should identify these small steps and be quick in implementing them. Otherwise the vision would start sounding like a hollow promise. And here I would like to highlight another thing, Vishal, why BIMSTEC matters and how India is interested in taking it forward is also signified by the fact that India is contributing 32% of the finance which goes to the secretariat. So India is willing to strengthen the BIMSTEC. In the previous summit, India had offered $1 million in grant to strengthen the secretariat. So to summarize it, what I'm saying is that our ambitions are praiseworthy. We need to develop vehicles for implementation, and that needs institutions, be it regional centers, centers for excellence, or be it strengthening the secretariat of the BIMSTEC itself. And apart from this, what we need to also understand is that we have certain countries which share our ambitions, which have similar strategic challenges coming from China. Now, which are the countries that I'm talking about, and non-problematic countries? Australia and Japan. So financing or any other kind of support for India's endeavor of leadership in BIMSTEC can come from these countries also. So we should explore that. And next is, we should not forget that in the broader context, Malaysia and Indonesia are also Bay of Bengal littoral countries. So is there a way we can build synergy with these countries which propels the Bay of Bengal region as the center of global trade, where the BIMSTEC then becomes the important body that it is envisaged to be?
Openness was also in one of the articles interpreted as openness to adding new members, which
Yes,
you mentioned,
yes.
right? Apart from lower tariffs and other things.
Yes.
So
So one
that
thing I
can
would
be a
like to
potential
add-
agenda.
Yes, correct.
So with dysfunctionality of SAFTA, like Sir was saying, no, trade is a very important idea. Reason because if you look into this region, sir, India is not right now in any of the free trade type of idea. So we have backed out from the world largest free trade agreement, that is RCEP. Sir mentioned about Japan, Australia. Japan, Australia are quite intelligent enough to keep their strategic rivalry apart and be very in tune with the economic competitiveness. They are part of RCEP. We are not part of RCEP. Our SAFTA has been dysfunctional. We don't, EPIC mein we are not the member. So Indo-Pacific mein we are an Indo-Pacific Economic Forum, IPEF, but IPEF not a free trade forum. So my point is that, like Sir said, BIMSTEC definitely is going to take us forward in trade persona also. But for that, free trade agreement now is very much required. Plus, sir, if Pakistan is not there, I can say that because SAFTA isliye to dysfunctional hua, because Pakistan was flouting the norms openly. Now when it's minus Pakistan, I believe FTA could also be a very nice idea we can gain in future.
Right. So the FTA will in general boost the trade, as you have highlighted, because roughly 2.5% of the regional trade in the South Asia that we are having, and this BIMSTEC can offer a lot of potential as far as the trade is concerned, because the common diaspora will offer the common kind of demands of the goods.
And so when you are talking about diaspora, temple diplomacy of India plays a very important role, especially when we have Thailand. Abhi to Cambodia is not there, but then temple diplomacy, the Ramayan trade, the Buddhist circuit. So diaspora, so we can play. So soft policy could also be, like Sir said, a low-hanging fruit for us. HADR is part of that only, no? So that could also be a very nice
But
idea.
over and above that, there should be the agile diplomacy, as Sir was highlighting, that whatever we should do, it should be the fast track. It
We
should
need
not
to
be
figure
like,
out willingness. So
Exactly.
political willingness right now is required because BIMSTEC no doubt is a preferred platform.
So, ma'am and sirs, I had a small question. I was just like thinking about it. will Trump tariffs put pressure on the other countries to also create tariff barriers, and will that be only for the US, or it would be like they would be compelled, to protect their own industries, they would be compelled to like raise tariffs for other countries also? ऐसा होगा क्या? And in that particular scenario, what happens to the ambitions of like free trade in regional groupings like BIMSTEC? I'm like thinking on those lines.
So the idea of free trade is going to remain important, but in what form that free trade is going to be implemented is something that is right now being questioned. So if we see, just because US has done something, it is not suitable for the entire world, right? And case in point being, as Vishal, you have also mentioned earlier, the speech of Singapore's Prime Minister, right? So here BIMSTEC or these groupings have an opportunity to showcase if the idea of free trade at the global level is under pressure by the actions of great powers. It is regional powers or neighbors like India and its neighbors which can show the way forward.
So we can, I believe, capitalize on that thing. Something is going wrong there in the region, we can capitalize. So in fact, with Bangladesh, so before Sheikh Hasina was toppled down, we were talking in terms of CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, that is involving everything, including trade, including IPR norms. So I believe we would be more than happy if something of FTA happens, and that in terms of CEPA, that would be a great
मैं ये सोचा कि जो ट्रम्प के टैरिफ्स हैं, will they be, are they an opportunity for other groupings to like go for a FTA kind of a thing, या फिर एक कंपल्जन होगी हमारे ऊपर कि अपने बिजनेसेस को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए कि हम भी फिर टैरिफ लगाने पड़ेंगे और हमारे FTAs नेगेटिव में चले जाएंगे, मतलब दुविधा।
मुझे लगता है कि जहां इंडिया को प्रोटेक्शनिज्म की जरूरत थी, वहां इंडिया हैव शोन that we are very much with economic protectionism, like we backed out from RCEP, as I told you, we backed out from trade pillar of IPEF. So जहाँ जरूरत लग रही है वहाँ we are being very economically prudent, so we are backing it out. जहाँ नहीं जरूरत है तो वहाँ it's always good thing to take forward. And to
summarize like what we have discussed abhi, basically like from multilateralism to minilateralism we are already moving. So like broadly we were previously talking about the global groupings where the US was the leader, but as Sir has highlighted now that when the US is retreating, US is like taking the trade towards itself or center towards itself only. So now we are more talking towards certain kind of regional organizations, because commonality will create certain kind of demands related to the goods and services, and that will create the opportunity for the groupings like BIMSTEC, as I think Sir what you want to highlight here.
Free trade would also make sense in this case because we have geographical contiguity. Right. And second, we have yet not achieved the potential of the trade. So the entire trade of all the BIMSTEC countries is around 1.4 trillion. But if you look at their own trade with each other, it's not even 10% of it.
The great potential.
So significant potential is here. And that's where we can afford to lower the tariffs as a barrier. We don't need tariffs as a barrier, so to say, once we reach an understanding on what kind of economic future we are looking at. So in short, the answer is what President Trump is doing in America in terms of tariffs and unilaterally using tariff as a pressure instrument is an opportunity, in fact, for countries which are geographically contiguous with each other to create regional supply chains, to create value chains, and then that gives them a collective bargaining power in the global economy. Because you can't become China or a producer like China overnight, but you can develop these regional hubs of manufacturing.
So that's what the way forward for BIMSTEC also, as far as the economic pillar is concerned, that we need to look towards like whatever the geographical contiguity is there with respect to different countries, try to build up upon the trade related aspect that will ensure the interdependence, and when there will be more interdependence as said in the international relations, so there will be better relations between the even rival countries also. So I think that's very well summarization of this particular discussion, and thank you everyone for this fruitful discussion, because I think almost everything related to not only from the perspective of this summit, but in general from the perspective of what kind of potentiality that BIMSTEC can offer to this particular region, specifically if India will be tomorrow like leading this particular groupings. So that particular thing is also going to help a lot for India at the international level also. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So with this, we are concluding this fruitful discussion from the perspective of the BIMSTEC and its relevance. So I hope that you might have found a lot of interesting pointers that you can utilize in your examination also. So we'll come up again for such more interesting topics. Thank you.